What's up, everybody? Brett Mix here for week 56 of the WWF side, the 184th episode of Raw in its history. It went on the USA Network from the War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Took place on November the 11th, 1996. This is the Survivor Series 96 go-home show. Ratings for Raw were a 2.5 and 3.7 for Nitro. WCW wins for the 20th week in a row. Now, after this week's loss, the total scoreboard is 17 wins for the WWF, 37 losses, and 2 draws all time through the 56 weeks of the Monday Night Wars. And that Raw that lost, drew at 2.5, was brought to you by Vince McMahon, The King, and Jim Ross. The show opened up with Owen Hart and the British Bulldog coming to the ring for their tag title match with Psycho Sid and Shawn Michaels, Clarence Mason in the corner of the Owen and the Bulldog. They cut to a quick backstage interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and McMahon apologizes for last week's Pillman with a gun episode, and Austin says that's all McMahon knows how to do, and he thinks it's pathetic. And then Austin says when he's done with Bob Holly, he'll find Bret Hart's locker room and slap the sharpshooter on him, and that's the bottom line because he said so. He said other stuff too, but that's the gist of it. In the ring for the belts now, the whole can these guys coexist storyline was out in full force here with Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid. These two headlined the Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden for the WWF title Sunday, so they showed clips of the previous weeks with them together and then them at odds and then them in each other's faces. They showed clips of that before the match began. That's the whole question. Can they coexist in this tag title match, or will they be the tag team champions going into Sunday? Owen started in the ring with Sid, and Owen took shots. This is funny. Owen took shots at Sid's chest with his right hand, and each time Sid didn't budge. Each time Owen Hart punched Sid, he didn't budge. So Owen just went like this each time. He just went like, "I'm begging you, please. It's okay. Let's have a test of power, or like let's just back off." And then Owen punched his chest again, and Sid didn't budge another time. So Owen begs again. I don't know why, if it's the fact that it's Owen that makes it so funny, but just how serious Owen seems is what makes it hilarious. I mean, there's Ric Flair begging, which is funny, but then there's the serious sort of. Ric Flair can get a little bit too goofy. Owen Hart, he got goofy in that guy looks serious way, and that's the comic genius people say he was backstage. You can really see it in his heel work, so it's always a pleasure to see. I think Owen and the Bulldog was one of the best tag teams of all time. They had the power, the agility, the speed, the cohesive unit. They worked together so well, and they don't have the longevity and accomplishments withstanding. I think they rank up there as one of the greatest tag teams ever. As a kid, I thought they were the best. I thought they were the cream of the crop for sure. Shawn Michaels tags in Sid as he kicks at the Bulldog in the corner, and then Sid gets kicked out by Davey Boy. And then Davey Boy hits a standing vertical suplex to display his power. Armringer off the ropes and a leapfrog as Owens tagged in, and HBK is also as well, and to the ropes. And Owen hits a spinning heel kick. And Enziguri drops Shawn, and then it kicks to the lower abdomen by Owen to Shawn. A tag into Bulldog as Shawn needs a hot tag to Sid, and he doesn't get one as a reverse chin lock by the Bulldog to HBK. HBK elbowed out, and the tag into Owen. Owen holds him there, and Michaels from the other rope comes off with the Oklahoma roll. He's then clotheslined by the Bulldog from the outside. Owen then continues to work on Shawn Michaels' lower extremities. Bulldog taunting HBK while stomping on him as he gets tagged in. Owen and the Bulldog show their quickness, power, and agility, and why they're one of the best teams, as I pointed out. Owen drop kicks HBK and then hits a net breaker, double team into a spinning heel kick by Owen to Shawn. Owen flies off the top with a drop kick to the Bulldog. This allows HBK to make the hot tag. Psycho Sid comes in and takes it to the Bulldog, and Owen with a boot chokeslam to Davey Boy. Sid just needs to hit the power bomb, but Owen runs in and he back body drops Sid. Michaels goes for a sweet chin music, and Bulldog ducks and hits Sid with a sweet chin music accidentally, inadvertently. And the Bulldog picks up the victory as he pins Sid after that, as Owen and Shawn brawl on the outside. Owen then hits an enziguri to Shawn. So when both Shawn and Sid wake up out of their comas, they're going to see that the other person is down and they didn't win the match. So Vince says, what's going to happen when both the guys wake up? I exaggerate comas, but Sid's down from a super kick. Shawn's down from an enziguri. So they both get up and then they argue to the back, and they need to be separated by officials. This match was nothing great or amazing, but it was still a very good, competent match. I rated it 2 stars and 3/4. The WWF officials have separated Sid and Michaels backstage, who need to cool down. Shawn cuts a promo on Sid, talks about how people think he's chump change and how Sid is the master and the ruler, but Shawn Michaels has been doing this for a long time, and he's beaten everybody that's come in his path, and he's going to beat Sid this Sunday, pretty much. Mankind with Paul Bearer and the Executioner, remember him? He takes on Freddie Joe Floyd, not the Executioner from the earlier WrestleMania 1, who faces Tito Santana, I believe, in the first match in WrestleMania history. But this is a different Executioner. The one from In Your House Buried Alive that helps Mankind bury The Undertaker. The one that takes on Undertaker at In Your House, I believe, It's Time, and coming up in December 96. That Executioner, the short-lived one. He's out there with Paul Bearer and Mankind. Mankind takes on Freddie Joe Floyd. Poor Freddie Joe Floyd. He doesn't have the greatest Raw record. I'm pretty sure he's winless in about half a dozen matches. And he's a decent wrestler for a jobber, and I'm being serious. Mankind, in the end, gives him the mandible claw, and he wins. So I rated it 1/4 star. But after the match, a shark cage lowers, and it has a Paul Bearer blow-up doll upside down in the shark cage, lowering from the roof, and Undertaker cuts a promo on Mankind. He hasn't been seen since was buried alive, so he just cuts a promo. He doesn't show up. And he says that Mankind will rest in peace, but this will not be the end of Paul Bearer's torment. Paul Bearer cries and says he's not going in the cage, but we all know he does. Next up, Stone Cold Steve Austin take on Bob Sparkplug Holly. Austin takes apart Holly with basic fundamentals, a side headlock takeover. Whipped into the corner, Holly goes for a splash, but Austin gets the knees up. Austin with a Luthez press. Austin stomps on Bob Holly. He hits Bob Holly, is able to get a Hurricane Rana, and JR bugs Vince about calling the moves. JR calls the Luthez press and the Hurricane Rana, and Jim Ross says, or you can just say, what a maneuver. So he really bugs Vince there, and he really gets him with the whole maneuver thing. JR, he was just still playing that role where he was trying to be a heel. And he's great if he can speak his mind. Austin hit the stunner and got Holly. Austin says backstage that somebody's been stealing his lines, and that the Bret Hart match will be the match of the decade. Obviously, a whole Hollywood Hogan and Roddy Piper, they've been saying that on Nitro will be the match of the decade. Austin and Paulie put on a basic match, 2 stars and 1/4. That's the match portion of the show. To end the show after the Austin match, Austin's got his glass theme, by the way. It's one of the first times, if not the first time, you ever hear his glass theme on Raw, actually, because he debuted the glass theme in Your House Buried Alive. So this might be the first appearance on Raw with the glass theme. But nonetheless, he walks to the back with the glass theme. He stopped it and told the camera before he goes into Bret Hart's locker room. He says, if you want to see me and Bret, you're going to have to pay. And that's the bottom line. He said, someone's been jacking his lines, but this is the match of the decade, son. That, in part, with his Austin 316 black and white vignettes for the Survivor Series, was just special. This is above average material they're producing. On one channel, you have Austin 316 vignettes in black and white, and on the other channel, you have black and white NWO vignettes. And people wonder why the Attitude Era was so fun. It's shows like these, and the last week in Austin's career, last week with Austin Pillman, the Gun Show, in the earlier shows that some people say the Attitude Era was in part in 1996, and they're not wrong. It's shows like these that make you think that way. This episode scores a quality rating of 5.5 out of 10. Austin was entertaining enough throughout. The backstage area, in the ring, the Austin 316 vignettes, as was Owen and the Bulldog versus HBK and Sid. Everything else was just kind of there. They had good Mankind Undertaker build too, with that Undertaker promo with the shark cage lowering. They did a good job for how Raw was booked back then when it was just an hour long. You can't expect tons of quality on these kind of Raws. So for the kind of Raw you get, I think it was a 5.5 out of 10. As said, it loses to Nitro 3.7 to 2.5, with the Raw scoring the latter, a 2.5. But the Raws are getting better. They're showing more edge. They're showing more attitude. And Stone Cold Steve Austin being a big part of it is helping its cause. So that's the go-home show to Survivor Series for Raw. We'll see you next week, the night after Survivor Series. I'm Bret Mix, and thank you for watching the Monday Night Wars.